Welcome to Behind the Doc Lens. I'm your host, Olga Medvedev-Young. With us today is Robb Moss, an established filmmaker, professor, and cinematographer. He has been working in the film industry for over 25 years. His work has been viewed on public television, at film festivals, and numerous venues all around the world. He's here to talk about his film, Secrecy. This documentary uncovers the vast, invisible world of government operations and shines light on the secrecy surrounding it. This is Behind the Doc Lens.
Information is power. Some information is so potent that it could be dangerous. Secrecy is an attempt to control that power.
If I can decide the reasons you will be held in jail for the rest of your life, and I don't have to tell anyone, what's left?
Nuclear capable or bioweapons capable or chemical weapons capable terrorist threat can be battled to a large degree under the veil of secrecy. And I think it should be.
What we need is an ability to protect intelligence capabilities, and frankly, that can only be gotten from an effective secrecy regime.
If we know something as voters, then our enemies know it too. If we don't know it, then we can't hold our government accountable for what it does and how it does it.
We have a special word for people who provide information to the enemy of their country. What word do we use? Traitor. Traitor.
The dichotomy is not between national security and openness. The dichotomy is between secrecy and security. The secrecy is not making us safer.
You need to keep your enemy confused. You want them to be insecure. You want them to fear. If they know your game, and they know your strategy, and they know your tactics, you have so handicapped yourself that you will not win. And right now, we need to be winning.
What we find over time is that secrecy breeds absolute incompetence. In the dark, you can get as lost as the people you're trying to hide things from.
Secrecy is something like forbidden fruit. You can't have it. It's classified. That makes you want it more.
I'm here with documentary filmmaker Robb Moss. Robb, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
If you could just give us a brief synopsis of the film.
Secrecy is a documentary film about the government's ability to put things away, hide them, if they deem that this information, should it be released, would cause harm to national security. It's a simple enough idea, but as you go into it, the problems of secrecy, who gets to make these secrets, how it indeed affects in the deepest way our democracy is the problem. And it's a kind of balance, and this is where we started in making the film. We had this sort of idea that the way to think about this problem was that if there's not enough secrecy, if the government can't put things away, that in this age of terror, our national security will be compromised. Not even in our age of terror. I mean, all governments have this as their primary responsibility to protect their citizens. Secrecy is one of the tools for this. So if there's too little secrecy, our national security can be compromised. On the other hand, if there's too much secrecy, if stuff's being put away that makes us unable to make good decisions about our national policy, about the biggest issues of the day, if we don't have the information, then we can't make good decisions and our democracy starts to erode. So this tension between too much and too little seemed to be a starting point to make the movie.
What made you decide to make this film?
I should say from the outset that the film is made with my film partner, Peter Gallison. He's somebody that I work with and teach with, and he had written something about called Removing Knowledge, and it's about what happens when you take knowledge out of the system. And one of the central statistics that he discovered, and that is in a way one of the stepping off points to making the movie, is that in a given year, approximately 5 times more information is taken out of the world and put aside and hidden than is put on the shelves of our biggest public libraries. So this idea that there's this vast invisible storehouse of secrets taken out of our ability to make sense of the world, taken out of our ability to make strong deliberative decisions, to participate in our democracy, as opposed to all the media, all the books, all the periodicals, all the articles, everything that goes into the largest libraries in the world. 5 times as many secrets are made each year as open knowledge.
So clearly you and Peter knew something about the secrecy, but did you have any idea of the depth?
Right. When you embark on a project, you start with something. But mostly you start with is nothing. You start with the not knowing. And I think it's incredibly important for films to be made going through the process of not knowing, and have the not knowing be a part of the making, as part of the experience of watching the movie. This is complicated because movies have to have a logic and a structure, and it makes it seem like they're acts of nature. It makes it seem as if they go naturally, seamlessly from one idea to another, as if they're heading towards a conclusion. On the other hand, if you know too firmly what the end of a movie is when you start to make it, it's not an interesting movie to make. And what's the point of spending all that time and energy to do it if you already know the answer? And it ends up working backwards from a conclusion. So, science until the middle of the 19th century often worked backwards from conclusions. We think X, and then you prove the X by marshaling the evidence.
Well, let's talk about some of the secrets that you uncovered while making this film.
Right. So one of the important things that we came across in the making of the film is something called the state secrets privilege. This is a privilege that the government enjoys, that if a court case goes forward, then information would be released that the government says would compromise national security. So they can stop court cases from going forward by just their say-so, by just their saying, there's a secret here, so we can't go forward in knowing this. It's a privilege that the government enjoys that came out of a 1948 plane crash in Waycross, Georgia. There was a kind of experimental mission going on. There were lots of civilians on the plane. By lots, I mean like 6 or something like that. Or 9, thank you, that's great. The plane went down, everybody died, and the widows of the civilians sued the government.
And they wanted to know what happened naturally.
They wanted to know what happened. And the government made all kinds of representations between 1948 and 1953. The initial part of the government's rebuttal was that if people feel that they're going to get sued, they won't speak with us honestly. So we'll never be able to make accident reports that mean anything. So that was their argument. But every court along the way said the widow's interest in this trumps that. And if you take that single incident and expand it, how much stuff is in there that shouldn't be there?
I mean, if you can put a piece of information that wasn't even that important or that secret, where does secrecy stop?
It doesn't stop. Unless there's a mechanism in place that there's some oversight. And this is where we went in the film. It started with this idea of too much or too little and this kind of shouting match. Over time, it was clear that the only way for this not to produce very bad results, if people were looking at what happened at Abu Ghraib, if there was some kind of accountability in that, people wouldn't do that. But human beings under duress, human beings under pressure, will do very bad things. They'll torture, they'll do anything they need to do to get things done.
You're out there digging for information. What was that like? Was it difficult to go through red tape and to get all of these people to come and talk to you about secrecy and the role that it has within our government?
When we started, we thought we would get the door shut in our face at every turn. But we weren't interested in the secrets themselves. We weren't interested in actually what's in there. I mean, we are interested in what's in there, of course, but we're not interested primarily in how you make a thermonuclear weapon or what the troop movements in Afghanistan are, things that actually sort of need to be kept secret. But we were interested in the mechanisms by which secrets are made and the world of secrecy. So as it turns out, people in the secrecy world were actually incredibly eager to tell their side of the story. As long as we weren't asking what the secrets were, but talking about the ideas behind it, the thing that animates their work. And we spent all of our time talking to people who were embedded in the secrecy system. We didn't choose people to talk to who were sort of experts from outside, who were like writing books, but had no actual relationship. We talked to people in the CIA, in the NSA, people whose job it was, people who'd been victims of secrecy, people whose job it was to keep America safe, people whose job it was to make secrets apparent to all of us so we can make better decisions. So there was this kind of experiential component underneath it. And it's this experiential component, this desire to communicate. Secrets produce an equal and opposite reaction for the people who are secret holders. They don't tell their wives or husbands. They work all day in this sort of secrecy system. We knew somebody who worked for the CIA his whole life, and in his later years he got sick and he started giving his organs away while he was still alive.
Wow.
And if you talk to him, and he wouldn't go on camera with this, but it was impossible not to imagine that he just was trying to like open himself up. He held too many secrets. There's something about secrets that is keeping secrets, making secrets, turning people against their governments. The CIA does a lot of work in which they turn people against their governments, and that kind of turning secret world has a erotic component. There's something kind of secret and pleasurable about that. And almost everybody wanted to talk about that. It was odd.
So exotic.
Exotic.
Being erotic.
Yes. And the sort of power of knowing things that are illicit and only you know and other people don't know.
Were you thinking to yourself, man, I'm going to get into so much trouble with this film?
Yeah, I would hear clicks on my phone that either were there or not there. Probably they weren't there, but they might have been there. The post-9/11 world opened us up to all kinds of invasions. But as we get afraid, we give up our privacy. And as we give up our privacy, then our secrets are, more and more secrets are kept. And I would say the Bush administration was extremely vigilant about making secrets and keeping the secrecy regime. And we don't go after them so specifically because we felt that it's an agent of powers more than it is an agent of Republican or Democratic belief. But the Obama administration's secrecy regime has been equally bad. I think that they've done many good things. We don't torture people now. Torture was one of the ways in which secrecy, you could do things and not have it observed. And I think there's been ways in which it's been tailored. But the secrecy regime and the going after the press, this particular administration has a very bad record of trying to stop leaks, and it's understandable, but turning it into a legal thing and frightening the media community into not going after information. And I think the media has to go after information. It's the only way in which you keep our democracy whole. Was
there any red tape that you encountered during the process of making this documentary?
There was certainly some red tape. We made Freedom of Information Act requests, FOIA requests, that it's directed at us, but it was also directed at the world, that there is a mechanism for getting secrets, and you can write this request, and it goes through a committee, and that committee has to determine. But if they stonewall you or they wait, so years and years and years and years go by, it has the effect of chilling information, and we certainly encounter that. We went to the CIA and we talked to people, and we went to Langley, and you probably don't know this, and maybe your viewers don't know this, but the CIA has a gift shop. And it's the greatest gift shop I've ever been to because it's all this spycraft paraphernalia. So like I just bought half the shop for my children. It was so wonderful. But you go to the CIA and we were sort of escorted to this room. Basically we were treated like we were sort of idiots, and maybe we were, but we were trying to get information. And then one of the guys who was in the room sort of took us aside and said, look, if you really need some more information, here's my private number and you can call me. It just seemed like a way for them to learn more about our intentions. But he was very persuasive, and that is the world in which you're sort of...
Did you call him?
No.
So
no, because I was completely sure that this was not on the level. I mean, why would he do that? Yeah.
In terms of distribution, how did you go about getting this film out there, getting it promoted?
Well, we were very lucky to premiere the film at Sundance. And if you have a film at Sundance, it's sort of like being shot out of a cannon because it's a huge amount of press, a huge amount of attention is paid to those films, and we were lucky enough to get in. So we had that experience as a starting point. The rollout for such kinds of films tends to be film festivals, theatrical, television, home video. So that was basically our rollout. We had a really robust festival life. We had some theatrical life in New York and LA and here, and some reviews in the New York Times and the LA Times. And it was a way it was our goal to make the film be part of a national conversation about who we are as a nation, how we want to be around these issues of secrecy, national security, democracy. The ACLU picked up the film and used it as part of their anti-government secrecy. The film is a thought piece. It's not meant to be an indictment exactly. It's not the kind of film we made, and it's not the way we think about it. It seems more interesting and more complex to think thoroughly about this. After the theatrical, it was on the Sundance Channel, and then we've had a kind of lively home video distribution, plus all kinds of events with organizations that would be interested in having this as a conversation.
So clearly this is a timely piece with plenty of interest in it. So you got lucky in that sense that people wanted to see this.
Yes, and we started the film before secrecy started being a topic in the New York Times. We were just sort of rolling with it and we caught a wave.
Yeah. So you were ahead of the curve.
But it's just lucky.
Yeah,
I mean, nobody
just
can.
lucky. What other advice can you give to aspiring filmmakers who would like to pursue something of this caliber?
The only thing you can do is to make something you care a lot about, to find an issue or a topic that really is your issue, that you can sink your teeth into, that you can throw yourself at, and that only you can really do in the way that you wish. And that if you can find that topic, find the thing you really want to make a film about, all the other things, the financing, the distribution, flow out of that initial idea. And if it's in you to do that, find your topic and make a movie about it.
Well, Rob, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on Behind the Doc Lens. Till next time, I'm your host, Olga Medvedev-Young.